And the problem with this one is that when you turn on the power, I'm going to turn on the light. This is the bar graph, and the bottom LED, the green, is for power. So watch what happens when I turn on the power switch. They all light up for a moment, and the power LED doesn't light up, and this does not work. So I have removed the two amplifiers from this area. That one of the amplifiers has a problem. There is a burned Resistor SMD resistor right here. I just tested resistance on the pins on the two MOSFETs, and they're both dead short. I got a hold of schematic of the power output unit, and I wanted to see what are the two resistors, because these are marked 56 followed by 3 vertical bars. I haven't seen marking like that, and when you look at the value at 3101 or 3134 on the schematic, so we have the 3101 right here, and this is value of 0.056 ohm, so it's this one, and the other one is the opposite end, is this one right here, 3134 is 0.056. So these are the large SMD resistors. So I did place an order for them, waiting for them. Also place order for the MOSFET transistors, and this is the type that I need to change. Now I'm going to be removing them right now, but to do so I have to remove the heatsink. Before removing heatsink I have to remove the bolt. There's a bolt going through the heatsink and connecting the two back to back. Now I ran into a little bit of a problem. You see somebody put the bolt on this side and the nut on the other side instead of the other way around, and now I'm not able to remove it without removing that inductor, which I don't want to do because there is a multi-pin through-hole element, so I don't want to touch that. And I have two options now. Either try to remove it simultaneously, the 2 soldering points of the heatsink and the 3 soldering points of the MOSFET, or simply cut the bolt with side cutters and then find a replacement. I removed the 2 MOSFETs and the heatsink. It was a little bit of a struggle. I may have damaged one of the through holes, so I'll have to make bridges, but that's later when the parts arrive. And I did measure them, and they're shorted. And both of them test short completely, so they will be replaced. And I tested on the board the 2 driving transistors, this one and that one, and they are perfectly fine, they're okay. And I also had some problem removing, especially this one pin, one of these. There are through holes, really difficult, so I may have to make a wire bridge from this pin. The transistors, these were the originals, and DigiKey offered, instead of these, which are now obsolete, he offered a little bit different transistors. So these are a little bit better, so it's higher voltage, lower resistance, higher amps. Other than that, it's got the same slow gate charge, and it's the same, basically the same one. Now, one of the through holes got damaged, so I have to, it's the gate of the T7109, so I have to make sure that this connects to the emitter of this transistor and the cathode of this diode, so just to make sure that there is a connection. But other than that, nothing got damaged. Now with the resistor, I was trying to remove this one, the broken one, but I couldn't do so because of the glue underneath. So I decided to leave it and very simply piggyback the new resistor on the top of the burnt one, of the open one. So it should be not a problem at all. Output module, is finished. The transistors are replaced, and as I mentioned before, I simply piggybacked the new resistor on the top of the open one, and you can see how the marking is different. This R056 and was 56 with 3 bars. I mentioned that one of the through holes got damaged, and this unfortunately is from the gate, so it's a very low current, and goes only to the emitter of this transistor right here and the cathode of this diode here. So it doesn't go when you look at the schematic. So this is the connection. This is the through hole that got damaged, but I put a bridge just to make sure that the connection is solid. And this module, if you want to buy it, it costs on the internet from $150 to $180, so quite significant amount. So it's worth repairing. To replace the broken speaker connector, notice that the microphone connectors are all metal and the speaker are plastic. I think it is to avoid any kind of short when you plug in, plug out. You don't want to short the outputs, the speaker outputs. With microphones, it makes no difference. So I think this is why they put plastics in here. And I have a couple of them, with the part number in the description, so if you ever need one to replace, or both of them, I'm going to replace both, so that way they look the same. The speaker output removes easily. All you do is just unplug this tiny little grounding connector here and unscrew the nut. The other one is broken, so all I had to do is just unscrew the top nut here, and everything came off. And now when I compare the original sockets with the new one, they look pretty much identical. So I'm very happy that I have found the replacement that should work just fine. The sockets came out, the speaker sockets came out very nice. They look the same now, they're both the same. And I'm going to put it together, but I will also give the measurements of the two fans in case if you need to replace them. This one's got a whiny noise, and this is important because this will provide cooling for the two power amplifiers. This is the fan for the power output, and this is 12 volts, little fan 50 by 50 and 10 millimeter thick. So you can buy any fan. If you go to Yamaha, buy as a quote-unquote original part, this costs quite a bit. But any fan, quiet fan, ball bearing, some good quality, Noctua is a good brand, or some other good brand will suffice. The bigger fan is very easy to replace, and I'm going to put the part number and DigiKey item number in the description. I think it's a good fan. It's a replacement size-wise. It's very quiet, 22 decibels. You can look up the specifications on DigiKey website. Now this one is very straightforward to replace, very easy. But if you want to replace this little guy, we have to remove the whole thing. And in order to do so, you first remove these two screws, then you can lift up and fold back this plastic cover, and as you do so, you will have access to 8 screws right here along the edges of the board. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and also we have to remove these 2 screws holding the power amplifiers. Once you remove those, the whole thing will lift up, and then you can have access to this little fan to replace. And the one I have is the same brand. Also very quiet with good CFM, pretty efficient fan, and I will post the part number in the description. The new ones, these ones have a catalog lifespan of 70,000 hours, so if that's true, that's pretty good. And they are not too expensive. They are about $5 or $6 each in 2024 on DigiKey website. Here's one little problem. If you use the original screws, you'll find out that they are way too short. And the reason is that the old fan had place for the screw heads, and it went quite a bit down. So the screws were sufficiently long for this fan, the old one, but they are too short for this fan. So there are two solutions: find different screws, or take a drill bit, like 1/4 inch, and drill by hand little indentations for the screw heads. I couldn't find screws that would be long enough, but not too long, in order not to touch any of the components in the back. So I decided to hand drill a couple of holes for the screw heads, and this worked out just perfect. This is 15/64 or 1/4 inch, will be just as fine. And I drilled them by hand a little bit to make indentations, and now the screws are long enough, and I'm going to use only 2 of them. It doesn't really require 4. There's not much force on the fan or tension of any kind, so 2 screws will hold it just fine. Once you have the little amp open, I would recommend spraying the parts with a good contact cleaner, and this is the best stuff I've ever used, Dioxide. About $16 for this can, this size on Amazon, but this will go a very long way. And also consider changing the fans, the 2 little fans, because they will extend the life of the amplifier. The failure of the power outputs could be caused by overheating, which means that one of them could have failed and not blow enough air. These were making whiny noises, strange pitch, changing pitch if I hit or shake the amp, so this is why I decided to replace them both.